What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. What's up? It's Mike. You're watching the Athletor Podcast, and this week's guest is none other than Cody Brewer. In this episode, we talk a lot about the differences in the major institutions that he's competed at and also coached at: OU, Northwestern, Virginia Tech, and now certainly at Princeton. So there's a lot of differences and similarities in those jobs, and he kind of runs through a bunch of them. Another thing we talked about, which was really interesting to me, is how he looks at recruits in terms of their weight management during competition. And also, don't forget, we have 4 brand new people on Cody Brewer's Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Athletor Podcast about to start. Check it out. Cody Brewer, how you doing, baby? Thank you so much for coming on, brother. I appreciate it.
I thank you for having me. So I'm excited to be on. I was looking forward to this when you reached out. I was happy. So
good. I'm glad to hear that. I like that color orange on you. Slightly different color from those Virginia Tech colors. But one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today, we try to dig into, I almost said delve, by the way, Joel Shaw. Joel and I hate the word delve. It has been overused since the spawning of AI. So we're going to dig into some of the places you've been and the people that have kind of made you who you are, because you coming from OU,
yep,
you were a coach at VT and now a coach at Princeton. Those major institutions, but they're seemingly from the outside, they're very different types of institutions. Give me your outlook on how different OU was to Virginia Tech to Princeton.
Yeah, and I was actually at Northwestern for 3 years too. So
That's true
in that
too.
span,
Right? So I guess that one's probably closer to Princeton. Am I crazy for saying that?
Yes. No. Hey, it's very different in the ways of education wise. Princeton #1. I'll take that. It's good to be number one in that. But Northwestern very similar. I mean, we had to have you had to be good academically to get in there. Learned a lot while I was there too. But just from my time kind of at OU and then to Virginia Tech and now to Princeton. First off, I don't love moving in general. Once you move a bunch, you don't love to move. But I knew, more than anything, just the difference is the people. I go from, Southwest Virginia where, there's people, but VT is kind of that's their life. They're in it. I remember being at Northwestern and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to deal with all these pro teams and like between the Bulls, that whole like atmosphere of sports is so big that I think that was like a big difference there. And then the jump now to being at Princeton is like, it's actually reminds me a little bit of my time at OU, the place in general. It's very, I guess people would think if you've never been to Princeton, like I had never been, I was like, oh man, it's next to this big cities and it's this city life. It's really not. It's complete opposite. Actually, it's more, I wouldn't say rural, in that way, but very similar to OU that it's its own, even VT, it's its own, like, I don't want to say sanctuary, but kind of like it's its own, community in that way. And I love that. I thought, cause like I said, I thought I was going to get there when I took the visit. I was like, big city life. I'm not used to that again. I don't know how that's going to go. And it was completely opposite. And now you can go a lot of places to get a lot of places in the city, which I like. I have New York City's a train right away. Philly is about an hour. Newark is that way. So there's a lot of places you can go within an hour, time difference. And to be honest, the thing I love the most is the recruiting. At VT, I was up there every weekend and it's a 6-hour jaunt, 6.5 every time. At Princeton, I'm like 30 minutes to an hour from anywhere, shout out to West Essex High School. I'm using a classroom right now at their school. I just, but it's like, I have the ability to do these camps, get around to these high schools that I was at Tech. It's the same thing, but I'm driving 7 or I'm having to fly to get there because the recruiting, the state is so good. New Jersey's so good. PA, everywhere around here is great. So that is the biggest difference I've noticed now I'm in everybody's backyard now. So that's
Yeah,
the
you are.
part of it. And that's
Have you
what
made it
I
out?
love.
Have you made it out to the beach yet?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Where'd you
That was
go?
one of my first stops was ashore. Cause I had been, my time at Northwestern, I'd been around Sebastian Rivera,
Okay.
basically my whole, he was the first guy I started with. And that way,
Uh-huh.
and every summer he wouldn't train at Northwestern. He would stay home. So I would have to go out that way to train. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to the shore, just in that way, but I love it. It's a, what a great thing for a high school kid. Like you have
Yeah.
high level wrestling and then you can have a life outside of it a little bit too. You can go to the shore, have that. When growing up in Missouri, it wasn't the same. So in that
No,
way,
not quite as much. Yeah, it's funny, man. I used to own a club not on, but like pretty darn close to the Jersey Shore. And we'd
yeah.
have kids that would come in and like class doesn't start until 7:30, but I had a youth class at 6. And they would come in at 6. I'm like, why are you here so early? And they would fall asleep in the corner of the mats. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing, dude? They're like, dude, coach, we've been up surfing since before school. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, get some sleep. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit part, and it's a lot like that here in Southern California. Like some of these kids,
Yep.
I remember working out one day, and one of the kids comes in, bro, I'm not kidding, gash on his foot like this big. And I'm like,
Ugh.
what the heck happened to you? He's like, I stepped
Yeah.
on a stick. I'm like, huh? That doesn't, okay, well, I
Yeah.
guess he's like, I'll drill. I don't know if I'm going live today. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. You're like,
I don't know
you're a
why that'd be
tough kid in
different, but
that
all
way.
right.
Yep. You'll take it. You're like, all
All
right.
right. So tell me about it. Was there anything shocking to you getting into Princeton or getting your feet wet in Princeton over the last couple months?
Um, Nothing that really shocked me. I would say it shocked me a little bit how much of a hustler Joe Dubuque really is. Like just
Mm,
watching from afar. I've known Joe for a couple years now. We had actually conversations years ago, and I laugh about it now because I'm in the situation. But we were at Fargo one year, and he was like, "Hey, listen, if I'm ever a head coach, you're going to be my first phone call." And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." Like I watched Joe as from afar as a kid. Watch him compete, watch him coach, coaching against him when I was at Northwestern. He was at Princeton with Glory and Rivera and that kind of whole time frame. I just had a lot of respect for him. I was like, man, this
sure.
guy hustles. Like it doesn't matter what the obstacle is. It seems like he's like, I'm going to go find a way to get it done. And just in this short process of me getting hired, helping him out, being back and forth between Virginia and New Jersey, getting my move and all that stuff kind of going. It's just, he basically did it on his own for a year. Like he had Quincy Monday helping, he had Reese Humphreys helping when they could, but he
Mhm.
coached a whole team on his own for a year. And I don't think people realize how hard that is. Like I don't,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable to watch him work and to learn from him now and work with him. I was really surprised how much he hustled, like how much he got to where the point is now. Like I'm not starting at a program that's like starting over by any
Mhm.
means. Like and people will know probably soon enough once they see our guys wrestle and compete. But it's like I'm starting with a foundation that's already been built, and
Mhm.
Joe was the header of that foundation. Obviously, Coach Ayers, going to
Mhm.
Stanford and he helped build this thing up, of course. But Joe's been the rock that's been, steady all the way through, and to see that from afar I was really surprised to see how much he was doing. Like he gave me all these responsibilities right off the bat. And of course I was like, yeah, tell me how I can help. What do we need to do to get
Mhm.
this thing moving? And just all the work he had to do. I was like, wow, like I don't know a lot of head coaches that
Yeah.
have to do that. And when they do, you just gain that much more respect. But I was surprised. I was like, wait, you're telling me you did this recruiting wise, you did this, you did the camps, you did all, I mean, you were doing this on your own. And so that was the thing I was like surprised about. I was like, wow, this guy, I'm going to work for this guy for a while. Just in the
Yeah.
ways of I see how much he puts into it, having two kids, having one kid go through high school right now. He's got a daughter that's in middle school. It's like he has a family life, but he is hustling on that end to try to really get Princeton, on the map, try to get it, more to be, as you know, the Ivy League is just growing more. The coaching staff, I saw that you guys had Donnie on, the amount of coaches that are coming into the Ivy League now is awesome. It's like the high level coaches like Joe, the guys at Cornell, Princeton, Penn, like all these schools are getting better and better. And now I just think I was shocked to see that of like, man, this conference is going to be one because this is the first year we're breaking off our own conference tournament. Princeton's actually hosting it, which is awesome. But it's the first time that I think people are really going to see we're a 6-team conference. But man, we're 6 teams deep. Everybody's going to be good. It's going to be good for the sport, I think, to break off from that, kind of big EIWA was a lot. So I think the Ivy League is really going to be a conference now that's going to compete, for titles and obviously all Americans.
I got to tell you, and it's interesting to me because okay, if we're all going to be completely honest, it's Big Ten.
Yep.
And then, but here's the cool thing to me. The revolving door that is number 2 is really interesting to me. Okay. Because for a while, I realized that there's not very many teams in the ACC. I get that. But that's a son of a gun of a conference, right? Like Virginia Tech's a son of a gun. NC State's a son of a gun. UNC, Coleman did a good job there. Cole's doing a good job there. And by the way, Pitt's not like they're tough outs. Like these are not. Yeah, look, I know people say, oh, Duke. Yeah, I get it. Okay, they don't have the resources that a lot of people do. Fine. Okay, whatever. But those 4 teams that I just named, those are really tough teams.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Now you bring in the Big 12 because the Big 12 brought in Missouri. Okay, and now we got Oklahoma State, and we got Missouri, and we got OU, and we got like this. And by the way, South Dakota State, good luck punching those guys in the face because they're going to punch you back.
Getting better,
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Better.
So the revolving door that is the silver medal conference to me is super interesting. I have a sneaking feeling that this Ivy League conference could be number 2 sooner rather than later. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm biased now because I'm in it, obviously, but I thought the same thing about the ACC. I thought that we were right there when I was at the ACC for 5 years. I was like, man, this is unbelievable coaching staffs, guys working hard. You're seeing more All-Americans, more national champs out of the ACC, and I'd like to think too, a lot of times, I don't know if it could ever be a thing, but it's like you're putting your best in the conference versus the best in the Big Ten. It's really, like I said, it
for
didn't
sure. It's just
as
the
much,
depth, right? It's for sure.
And it's not, and I would even say it to the fact that too, it's not, and obviously, like I said, the Big Ten's been king. It was king when I was in college. It was a king before that. I think, but it's in the ways now that it's spreading the power through the Big 12, the ACC, the Ivy League. It's like, it's spreading that now to where, you're just getting a better variety of wrestlers, a better variety of sports. It used to, like I said, it used to be the Big Ten was kind of the only thing. And now, you're like you said, battle for that number 2. And then before long, obviously Cornell took second this year. It's not, the teams are not far off from chasing down, those trophy teams and stuff like that. And that's really another thing that drew me to Princeton in that way is like, they're not far off. And now we start getting the kids that you want. You start getting the, where you want to compete against. Like I know our schedule is got some challenges with the Big Ten. And that's the thing is everybody's wrestling everybody now. They realize how important these dual matches are, the tournaments. There's no more fear of like, we don't want to wrestle that team. It's, hey, how do we wrestle that team? How do we make it work to where these guys want to wrestle us? We want to wrestle, it's making the regular season, that much better. And I still have this theory that every conference dual title match should be on ESPN. If you really want to grow it in that way, I think there's nothing better than, Penn State, Iowa, putting that on ESPN, Cornell, Princeton, whoever it is, ACC, NC State, Virginia Tech, those matches should be on ESPN to not only grow the sport, but to realize how exciting those duels are. Those some of the best duels I've been a part of that I'm like, oh my gosh, like the average fan wants to watch it, and that kind of stuff. Those dual meet titles, those conferences are awesome matches. Some of the best, like I said, coaching wise, I've been a part of. And I can't wait till hopefully one day that's more of a normal thing. Friday night duels, Saturday night, Sunday, whatever it is, grow those matches. Cause those dual conference titles are awesome. They come down to, 1 point, 2 points. It's awesome. Yeah.
It's not, but like, okay. So you have an affinity towards dual meets from one aspect, or maybe two aspects, right? Also, you're part of Bedlam, so you understand that one.
Yeah.
But
yep.
You come at the dual meet format from the coaches and the athletes' point of view. As a media point of view, it's far easier for me to sell a dual meet to a casual fan than it is any tournament finals, any tournament finals, because I don't know who's going to be in that tournament finals. Okay. Right. There's that. There's, first of all, 10 weight. I'll be completely honest with you. If it was up to me, I would whittle it down to 9 weight classes. Okay. That's just for me. Okay. And here's why. Number one, do you know the 6th criteria for the dual meet?
No.
If in case, me neither. Yeah. So, yeah. So, and we're about as into this sport as you can freaking get. And I don't know what the 6th criteria, but guess what? It has come down in the last year, the last 365 days. It has come down to the 6th criteria, and I don't even know what the heck it is. Okay.
Right.
So if we have 9 weight classes, it's a manageable amount of time. Okay. Yep. Right. Like it's, we're not asking them to spend 2.5, 3 hours at certain points with commercial breaks.
Right.
To sit in front of their computer, sit in front of their TV. That's a lot to ask. But number two, if it ends in a tie, who won the more matches? That seems like a very simple thing. It's just like, it's an odd number. Somebody had to have won more matches.
Right. No, and I love that aspect too. I like what you're saying. I like that you're onto that of like, and I never even thought about the odd matches too in that way. Cause that does make sense of like, it doesn't have to come down to the 5-5, we're going bonus points, we're going this, we're going who tech, it goes back to a point game. I still remember the match at I think it was during the COVID year that it actually, like the second part of it, not the one that got canceled, but the second part of it, NC State, Virginia Tech, it comes down to Latona and Camacho, and he got a takedown to win the match, but he actually needed near fall to win the duel. We didn't know that at the time. He ends up getting 2 swipes at the end. We win the duel, right? But it's like the average fan would be like, "Oh, why did they win?"
The average, forget about the average fan. The coaches in the corner didn't know that. How
No, I didn't even know
track of all that. Yeah. Like that's like six. That's like 6 layers deep. Much. How am I keeping track of that shit? And like all the and by the way, I got to choose for you too. Like, what are we talking about? It's nonsense. You gotta have a degree in quantum physics from Princeton just to keep hold of the criteria. Like,
there's no simple way. Yes. Make it simple. That's what average fans would do, and then what us would do as well. We would be like, now we know what we have to do. So I agree. I would be on board with the 9 weight classes. I don't know where you would split it off or what you would do, because I still think you probably got to have a heavier weight class, but you could also change some weights to make them that, just because I think heavyweight wise, that would be interesting.
Here you go. Here's the solution. Instead of 9 weight classes, just make it 11, and then you can add something between.
We don't need more. So here, and Joel.
I like that idea though, to add another one, but I don't know where it would be. That's the thing. Yeah.
See, here's the thing. Everyone pisses and moans about the 6 weight classes in the Olympics, and while I think 6 is far too little, I don't hate 8. I don't hate 8. I don't hate it. I think it's good. I also think that 125 pounds for a senior level weight class is ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. It's so crazy that like Thomas Gilman has to be like a monk. Like in order for him to be like a lifetime 25, there's not many of them anymore. It's bananas to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, well, and that was part of the thing. I think as a senior level guy, was like getting down to weight. Like, I don't know. It's such you're choosing to do it, back when you're on a college team, you're like, I need to do this for my team. I'm doing it for myself, of course, but the discipline, like you said, you have to have to get down. And it's so, 125 pounds is, like I said, you get the one or two guys that maybe walk around at $130 that are like that, that aren't weighing 140 pounds, having to cut down to 125, so it's, yeah, it's a little tough in that way. I wouldn't mind, but the level of wrestling that goes on there is still unbelievable.
No,
to watch,
look,
those
to
guys
watch
scrap, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. It's just, asking them to do that. How much of their, like you're right. Watching the wrestling is incredible. Like Agoyev is awesome.
Right.
A lot of the Japanese 57Ks always.
I was gonna say Higuchi. Yep, all those guys. Yep.
Like whoever it is, but like they've always got great lightweights. And then Thomas Gilman, awesome. But here's the thing: how much of their how much are we cutting their knees out from them just by having them cut this much doggone weight? I mean, it's Well, there's got to be a point of diminishing returns.
Right. And I also think too, and this was the craziest rule and I actually had it in my three years of senior level wrestling. It was a different weigh-in every year. And I actually thought the best one they did was my first year. So it would go, well, I went night before at one time too. And I thought that was just so extreme. Guys were becoming monsters the next day. You're cutting so much weight to get so big. That was just absurd. I as an athlete, I was like, I'm getting, I made 134. I'm getting 141, 142. That was like a healthy, like I felt good. Mm-hmm. I can compete at the weight class, and you would have that restriction. If I got above that, I was like, oh gosh, I feel horrible. If you were too low, you felt like, you didn't have enough in you. And then the next year it was scratch and then 2 kilo the next day, which I actually didn't mind as much because I've been in the shoe of like, how annoying is that you win a big semifinals match and then I got to go cut 10 pounds. It's like, I don't understand.
Brutal.
You're not rewarding it, or you're the other way where you lose a big match and now I got to go cut a bunch of weight. Try that motivation is like a whole new level of like, gosh, all right. Like I still don't understand that. Like I got the 2 kilo because I'm like, listen, it gives me a little leeway. I can cut a little bit of weight maybe to get back down. I'm still making a weight class. And then I did the double scratch and I've never, it probably broke me a little bit of the sport of just like how ridiculous this is. It's like, what are we doing? Like, when was that ever a healthy thing for me? Cause I actually don't think it's wrong to cut the weight and be at your like fittest weight class to compete. But I'm also like, what are you rewarding for a guy making the finals? Like what, I don't understand. Like, hey, let's go cut a bunch of weight now and do it probably unhealthy for the most part, right? Because I'm having to lose a lot of water weight and I get it. And hopefully you're hydrated all that day. You're eating, you're trying to do the best you can, but it's not really rewarding to do that. And my last year, I was just kind of like, I remember wrestling in the World Team Trial Finals against Graf. And I looked at like images of myself, like my face and how I looked. And I was like, I looked horrible. Like, it was like, I didn't even, and there's no excuses. I laid it on the line. You get beat, you win, whatever would have happened. But physically I looked so depleted that I was like, gosh.
How tall are you? How tall are you? You're not
I'm
short, dude.
No, I'm 5'7", probably 5'8", close to that for a 30.
Dude, I'm 5'8". I'm 185 pounds. Probably. I don't know. I haven't stepped up. Like, think about what you're saying, right? Like, you are my size, like frame wise. Like, you and I stand next to each other. That's why I asked, because that's 134. That's not good.
Yeah. It's crazy, so, and it's at the end of it, I was just kind of broke of that. Like, I was like, man, I love wrestling. I'd like to still compete, but I don't have a weight class. I'm a man without there's no, and that 63 kilo was good. That was kind of a midway point for me that like I could get there healthy, pretty easy and feel good. But man, that's what I feel for these guys having to go like, it's like, oh, they're 57 or 65. I'm like, that's a 20-pound difference. Like, how are you asking? Yeah.
That's a different,
and even the world weight classes, it's a different, whole different thing. But you go back and forth on it. And it's never going to be perfect, probably. But I would like to see them figure out a better weigh-in system than what we're
Sure.
doing. I
Well,
don't know
let
if
me
it's
ask you
helping.
this.
No?
Let me ask you this. So
Yep.
the 2-hour weigh-ins allow for still a pretty sizable amount of weight cut. Okay. Guys still cut a pretty, how Zane Rutherford makes 65K
Yeah,
is
right.
beyond me. It is beyond me. That guy is a monster. Fine.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. If it was mat side weigh-ins, literally had to weigh in and step on the line, would you have gone up to 65? And do you think it would have changed your mindset?
100%. 100%. I would have, I could have done that. Like I could have done a mat side weigh-in at 65 and I would have been, because I was probably 4 or 5 pounds bigger than that. So it wouldn't have been, the weight cut would have been different and you would have seen something different. Like that's the thing is if you have to step on and then compete hydrated or feel good, you're going to see a lot different. Everybody would have to go up for the most part. A couple big guys probably weigh around there close to it. Yeah, it would be a whole, and you would see the 57 kilo thing would be totally different. These guys
would not exist.
Gilman
it wouldn't
would either be
exist.
65 or bigger, or even like I said, if I really didn't want to cut any weight or really do anything, I would have been 70. Probably I could have put on a little bit of size and then weighed in at 70 and done that. So yeah, I think that would obviously dramatically change. Are they ever going to do that? I don't know. That's
they
the
don't
thing.
have the stones to do it.
But that would be, that would be a way of cutting down the weight cutting. I don't like in the ways of extreme weight cutting. I think that's, like I said, it's good to wrestle your fittest weight class and try to be, healthy and compete hard. But if your legs are underneath you, you're cramping, these kind of things, it's like you're not getting the most out of the wrestling part of it. It's more of a cutting weight game or how big I am. I see it all the time with like little kids or high school. It's crazy.
We're getting there. Now we're talking. See, now we're talking. Okay. So forget about little kids. Forget about little kids because that's just, what do they call that? Child abuse. So forget about all that. All right. I want to talk to you about what you look for in a recruit in terms of weight management, right? And maybe you don't have, it might be slightly different now that you're in a Princeton uniform, but for the last 10 years of your life, you're recruiting kids. What do you look for? What do you look for in a recruit in terms of weight management?
I think one of the biggest things is how they look at the weight class. Some high school events are very interesting, right? Because there are like night before weigh-ins. I think Super 32 is still like that. It's been like that forever that they weigh in. You see some absolute monsters at Super 32.
It's one weigh-in and it's night before.
Yeah. And you see some guys and I'm like, and it's fine. Like I said, it's the way it's
not fine.
If I was in high school, well, it's not, but I should say if I was in high school, I would have probably been doing the same thing. But
100%.
It's the fact that it's not good in the ways of it's not. You're seeing sometimes like guys just overpower guys, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, look at the size difference on the two of these guys. Like it's not even close. But for the biggest thing for me, like especially weight management, if you're cutting a little bit of weight, no problem. Like I said, eating healthy, you're losing weight, you're 5 or 10 pounds or whatever it may be. I don't know where, some of these guys can balloon up pretty good in high school. I don't really know. And that's the thing, but I want to see somebody that the biggest thing is for me is potential of like, are you hitting your peak because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else? Or, hey, you're maybe losing a close match or you're winning close matches, but your technique is good. The way you wrestle, your tenacity, your competitive edge, those things all go into play. The size thing, it doesn't really matter to me as much as long as I see like guys that can score points, guys that want to wrestle in the center, guys that, can hand fight pretty well, like things I can see for myself as a coach that I know. And I think football coaches do this a lot. I think it's actually really cool. They can see, a guy run a route and they're like, man, I can teach him 3 different ways to do that. Or I can see, throw a ball. I can teach him a different way to throw it that maybe can do that. It's like, I see a guy get to a single leg, how can I help him do that a couple different ways? How can we build off of that? It's not as so much of a weight management, a size thing. I hope they're not, cutting their leg off to make it. But I also know that freshman year when they come in, it's a big dramatic change, because whatever they did in high school, probably we're going to have to throw that out a little bit and be like, hey, you know, yeah, you can't eat one thing a day and expect to come in here and wrestle hard in a college level practice. That was the biggest shock to me. I remember like eating one or two things in high school and being like, oh, I can go through high school practice, no problem, whatever, you know, or I'm the better guy in the room, so it doesn't really matter. I went into OU and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to change the way I eat. I have to change the way I sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a change that you have to make, that unless your high school program is like top tier level, you know, and you guys have it all figured out and you have a lot of good, maybe college coaches around or coaches like yourself around that know it, it's just a change from what you do. I remember telling guys,
it doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter. These kids are, for lack of a better term, they're idiots. And I mean that lovingly. Like I love them.
Yes, no,
they're lovable idiots.
But they just don't know.
But they don't, they're just, and like, I can tell them like, this is actually my first kind of go around training women, right? Like we have we had 5 girls go to the state tournament out of 14 weight classes. And we took 3rd in the state. So our girls are tough. Our girls are tough, but too much. They're too tough because they just stop eating like 3 days before. I go, what are you doing? And they'll stop drinking any water a day and a half before. I'm like, stop. Like, what are you doing? You're going to kill yourselves. And they're all gone and they're not even sweating. Like, holy smokes, dude. So it's going to take a while for me, especially on that front. Like a lot of our guys on Poway's team, these guys are pros, dude. Laird Root knows how to make weight. Like, dude, like this kid's been doing it since he was a baby, bro. You know, even my son, like, I'll be completely honest with you. I've gotten to the point now where he's very meticulous about his weight. He asks me a lot. Like he gets like anxious. Like he got his mama's anxiety, right? So like he instantly like worried about his weight and stuff like that, you know. But I'll have to like kind of gently remind him, hey, you should probably still be drinking water right now. You should still be flooding. You're 24 hours out. But for the most part, our guys are pros, dude. Like if I didn't go to Fargo this year, I have no problem. Like he could make one of 3 weight classes and do it differently and know how to do it. So I think you're right. I think that the top level of athlete in this country that you're going to be recruiting to Princeton probably knows pretty well. But I still think that there's a nutritional aspect of this sport that they just don't have a firm grasp on. Like they're eating pretty poorly.
And you don't even realize it until you, like I said, you hit that first college practice and you're like, oh man, maybe that like bagel I had today wasn't enough, you know, or something, you know, it's like your energy level's down. Like I say, it's all about having the right people around to help. And the nutrition part of it, even from when I started in college, has gotten so much better. I love it. I mean, it's so much easier to connect with these guys now and be like, hey, this is what you should be eating. And you're around different people, you learn different things. Like I said, I'm not even a pro nutritionist now, but man, I love like researching that, you know, what works, what doesn't work, you know, and the best thing I tell kids is you have the internet, use it. You're on every social media thing. You're on everything.
You have a supercomputer in your pocket, dude. Use it.
Look it up all the time. I promise you could look up what's good and what's bad just from that. So, and I tell kids to be your own resource there. If you got questions, 100% ask. But man, you got a lot of ways that a lot of good nutritionists, people out there that want to help and put information online all the time, you know? And I think that's such a big resource that I know I didn't even have in high school. I mean, I didn't even have a computer going through high school. So in my house. So now that you have all these tools, the iPads, the phones, the computer, it's, you know, use it to your advantage, you know, really try to become a student in that way of it. And like I said, it's so much better. I mean, I feel like we're really seeing a good generation of healthy high school kids, healthy college guys trying to make weight the right way. I think that's the best part of our sport that's grown over the last, I would say 5-6 years, honestly. It's gotten that much better.
Yeah, it might be a little bit longer than that, but not much, man. Because look, even when you were in college, dude, well, look, let's call it what it is. State of Oklahoma cut some weight.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call
that's more the other side of this. No, I'm just kidding. No,
look,
it was us too.
You can blame it on the guys in orange if you want to. All right, but those Sooners, you guys cut some weight too. Okay, I
yes, we
synced it.
did. Yes,
okay,
we did. Yes.
But here's the thing though. It's not a mistake that the level of wrestling's gone up.
Yes.
Like it's not like
yeah.
Dude, I'm 74 years old. When I was in high school, our guys used to cut weight, like drag you to the scale like this, prop you up for long enough to get your hands off for a second, get a reading, and then grab you and take you. I'm not kidding. I saw it.
Yeah.
Like it's not good.
Horrible.
So, but like you transplant a bottom level All-American from today, he'd piss pound everybody from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He'd piss pound. It's just true.
I agree.
He would.
I agree.
It's not even a thing anymore. And a lot of it, I really believe, you could blame it on club coaching, and you could blame it on high-level coaching at a youth level. You could blame it on a little bit more money in the sport. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're just more worried about getting better at wrestling as opposed to cutting all your toes off to make weight.
Yeah. Well, like you said, there's the amount of high school wrestling that's just better now. The guys that are figuring it out, it's so much better than what it used to be. And I love the old heads back in the day, and there's still a lot of them around in that way. It's like, well, you just got to be tough and cut weight. And it's like, no, you don't.
Good luck.
No, you don't, because I know there was times that I wasn't tough when I was making weight and doing this stuff. So it's not it's not as simple as it used to be in that way of just let's cut a ton of weight and try to go out there and Coach Cody, actually, I'll give him a lot of credit. OU, he knew the old way, and he was like, man, after weigh-ins, I'd have burger and fries and pancakes and all this, I drink Cokes, and it's absurd. And then, and he actually really helped us, just eating the right things, but he would always say it, and it just stuck with me. And I use it in coaching a lot now, but it was like, when you're going to fill up a car, you're not going to put bad gas into your car to make it run, and you're not going to, and he always would use that analogy, and it kind of just stuck with me. Like, let's put good fuel in my tank so I can run, and do what I got to do. So it's like you said, it's gotten better over time, and I'm glad to see it, because like beforehand, it was just, you'd see these guys cut weight to do extreme stuff, and, guys passing out, stuff like that. It's just not good for the sport, and not good for your overall health in general. So.
No, it's just, and it's bad for both, for sure. All right, we got to switch gears because we're starting to run out of time here.
Sorry.
Who am I? No, don't you be sorry. It's I got to keep this ball moving here. I got to move the chains here a little bit better, Brewer. Who am I supposed to be? Give me, look, Pat Laurie graduates from Princeton, is wise enough to go into the corporate world. Okay. And Quincy Monday is on staff, so we're going to see him some more. But who do I have to be super excited about if I'm a Princeton wrestling fan?
Where do I start? No, I think we got some guys that are going to be definitely in the mix next year. Probably most notable, Ty Whalen. He won the Midlands last year at 49. He's a guy that I think could be anywhere from, in ranking wise, probably anywhere top 10 to top 5 at 149 pounds. He's going to be exciting in that way. I look forward to seeing him and what he can do. Obviously, that relationship's starting to grow, and with Ashnault being around and myself, it's awesome. Anthony's actually helped out with him a lot so far. Mark Anthony McGowan coming off an injury, he'll be in the mix at 25. Another guy that was obviously super talented in high school. Getting to know him, wrestling with him now, he's a guy that I'm excited about, just to see his potential. He's always had the talent, but now putting that, into me and Joe's system, I think that's going to be exciting to watch him. Cole Mulhauser, he's an 84-pounder. He's going to be coming off a surgery a little bit, but, getting him back in the mix at some point at 84. I could go up and down, and obviously there's a bunch of guys. Eli Rivera got in some mix last year. We're going to see where he's at weight class wise to see where he will be best. But he's done well overseas. He just took second out at the Pan Ams. wrestled 70 kilo out there. So he could be in the mix in a couple of spots. So the lineup is filled with guys, man. I'm excited to build those relationships is the biggest part. As assistant coach, I think that's one of the best things. And I think that with these guys, it's like a new crop of guys. They're getting to know me. I'm getting to know them. But it's exciting in that way of, what we really could do this year in 1 year. I didn't, like I said, you always get to a program, you're like, oh, we're going to need a little time and this and that. And like I said earlier, Joe's already got the foundation rolling. We come in and kind of just hop in now and try to take it to the next level to where, we're in the trophy hunt, obviously top 10 consistently. Those are goals that we have, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. Mark Anthony McGowan is as talented as anyone in the country. His wrestling IQ is off the charts right now.
Yes.
So, as the kid is a very intelligent wrestler. I'm excited to see, because look, let's be honest, right? Like, historically, Joe Dubuque has done very well with lightweights. Like, it's just, and so putting you into the mix as another lightweight coach seems to probably do some good.
That's right.
Okay. So, all right, let's get to our quick hitters here.
Okay.
Try not to think too hard about any of these questions. Just let it kind of roll out of your mouth. Who is the best recruiter in college wrestling right now?
That's tough. Because I was an older one. I still think Jack Spades is one of the best recruiters of all time. So
really,
he's not coaching anymore. Unbelievable.
Doesn't matter. I actually like that answer better. Why was he the best recruiter of all time?
Well, first off, he got me to go to OU, and I knew he was leaving. Like he was at OU, and if you ask anybody, he is the best salesman with like the best heart for it. Like, just
sure.
I mean, it would be the littlest things, like open the door for my mom, like Southern gentleman guy. He's from New York, which is not he's the complete opposite. Yeah. But gosh, he could sell you on just. I mean, I remember him being in that situation. And like I said, you ask anybody that was at OU, anybody that got recruited by Jack, it was like by the end of the conversation, you're like, yeah, I kind of want to go. Like he knew how to talk to people. He made it funny. He made it relatable. By far the best I've ever seen do it. Like, as far as, and those teams in like the 2000s when OU was kind of doing really well, Tion Ware, Hayes Winkle, Leitner, all those guys, unbelievable at just, I mean, you ask them, they're like, yeah, Jack talked me into it. Yep. Like, it was easy for him. And man, it was impressive to know now from the coaching end. And I try to take some of the things. I don't take his whole game, but man, he did such a good job with relating to people, making it funny. I remember it was a very little thing, and then we can move on. I won't try to go long on it, but he told me, the two things he told me. We're walking through the library at OU, and didn't know he did it beforehand, but we walked past the guy that was sleeping, and he goes, hey, at OU, we learned through osmosis. Like, this guy right now is studying. And I was just like kind of looking at him, and I'm like, what are you talking? Like, I like had this dumb look on my face. I'm like, I'm just kidding. You know what I mean? But it's like things like that people remember, that I was like, oh my God, that was so funny. Like, just to me, I was like, it's great. No way. Like, it's no brilliant. Way that's a thing.
It's brilliant.
And he would do that kind of stuff. He pulled my mom aside beforehand. I didn't see it. And he said, hey, just, agree with me when I tell you, is what he told her. And so I go in there, and they kind of took a second, but then we walk in together, and he goes, I know every library book in here. I've been here so long. I know every library book in here. I'm like, all right, whatever. Sure enough, my mom, he goes, hey, go over and point to one, and I'll tell you what the title is. And got me. And he's like, oh yeah, that's fourth generation physics 202. That's that book. And my mom's like, yeah, he's right. And I'm like, what? No way. It just like things like that. He was so relatable. He was so funny, charismatic. He had that salesman, but you really felt like he believed in OU, when I was there. Yeah. And I was kind of blown
I think
away.
he does, man. I think he still lives in Norman, dude. I mean, how much more can you believe in OU?
Yeah, I'll give Jack credit.
Norman, okay.
Yeah, he's the best I've ever seen do it so far. I mean, obviously there's a lot of great recruiters out there, but
Sure.
he is by far one of the best. So yeah.
That's incredible. All right, next one. Best wrestling shoe of all time. Go.
I wore them. I don't know the exact. I think they were Kale split seconds that I had. They were camo,
Okay.
but they were by far the comfiest.
What color
best
camo?
shoe.
What color camo?
It was green. The ones I wore were green on top, and then it had it was like army camo.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the P2s. Those are pursuit 2s.
Pursuits, yep. So those were by far the best shoe I ever wore. I wore them just for competitions in college, and they lasted me all the 5 years, past 5 years, but they were great. Best shoe, comfortable. A lot of those Asics I had were pretty good. I like some of the Nike shoes now, but those are by far the best ones.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about the sport of wrestling, what would it be?
Gosh. I thought about this because everybody's willing to go almost freestyle now to step out and everything in that way. I would actually like to see, and I don't think we can actually do it, but I want to see it one day to hold some wrestling accountable. Get away from the overtime rideouts. I think it drives me nuts as a coach to see a guy lose by a second riding time, and that's how you got beat. I don't love that about the sport. I don't love that.
Do you like criteria?
Yes, in some way. Oh, fire alarm behind me.
No, I can't hear it.
Okay, we're good.
He's like, it's fine. The building's burning down. I'll just,
Yeah. Hey,
that is
Mike,
dedication.
I'm sticking on the interview with you. All right, this is dedication.
Let's go.
Hopefully it's just a test, but so yeah,
criteria.
I think criteria. I don't mind it. I love the 2-minute overtime, like on your feet. I think you should have to get a takedown to win the match, to me, a little bit. But I also like the old high school rule, like one guy goes down, one guy's on top. Either you ride it out or he gets away and you win. Like I'm kind of play both sides of it, but I hate the riding time. Like I need more than you, because I think what happens now that drives me nuts is that guys will play the system, do nothing in the overtime, the 2-minute, and then just go, man, if I get a ride out or I get away, I'm going to win. Like I hate that. Like, I feel like that would be something that, and I know we switch rules all the time. I get it. But I would love to see a takedown.
I think we could. I think we could be. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it doesn't have to be necessarily a takedown. If we implement a step out, if we implement a step out, I think we could just do an unlimited overtime where first score wins, like neutral position, first score wins. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, to me, the step out would help. Did implement the step out that year for the overtime. Like you're right. I think that would do a lot of justice. Like I said, I just don't think I like the gaming of the system now of like that 2-minute overtime is important to some guys, but then other guys, it's like, how do I just,
yeah. How do I thumb block for 2 minutes? Right. Last question, because we're running out of time. All right.
Okay. Sorry.
4 people. That's all right. 4 people. Got to be American. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
Ooh, it's a good question. I've seen you do this before, so I like this one. I think number 1, Mike Leitner. I knew him personally. I think that just being a national champ, his career, obviously I'm biased because I got coached by him, but he's probably my number 1. Oh God, this is tough. There's so many good dudes. Because I don't want to go just based on accolades either, because I want to go people I kind of know at least a little bit. I know obviously there would be like the average Kale, all these guys, obviously, in that way with accolades. I think Franklin Gomez would be on there for me. I watched him pretty much all the way through. He was an absolute stud. I remember watching his film, trying to mimic that double leg that he had. I don't think I ever had it, but I tried.
Low double. It was close. You're close.
He was really good. This is my 3rd one. I kind of want to go big guy if I can, just because I know that big guys need some love too. I'd actually go Tommy Rollins. I watched him. Kid, really, really talented. Tommy was obviously a national champ, but I knew him a little bit from afar, but watching his, like at heavyweight, super impressive. Moved really well. I thought technically he was like really gifted. Like for heavyweight, I was like, man, this guy knows a lot of technique. So I got to give him some love, the big guys. And then my last one.
This is always the toughest.
No, it's not tough for me. Now, Sebastian Rivera, by far. One of the best people I've ever been around, coached, an absolute savage, tenacious. That was not easy. He was my last one for a reason. Like I said, being around him, Olympian. I just heard he's going to carry the flag for Puerto Rico, so I'm super excited for him. And yeah, it's, world silver medalist, right on the cusp. He was my one guy that should have got a title that didn't. But man, unbelievable. He's by far on there for sure.
Awesome. Hey, Brewer, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it.
No, this was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
all right, we'll talk to y'all soon.
The building fire as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm good. I avoided it. I got outside, so I'm good now.
Awesome. Thanks, Brewer.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, later, bud.
Wait. Don't go anywhere. Before you hit that next button, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.
What you want to know, man? Welcome to the show.